Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Tylar Fry, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, we've been busy. We've been running all over the place with life and family and business, and glad to get you in here, man. We've known each other, we were just talking offline, 15 years.
2008, 9, something like that.
8 or 9. Yeah, you knew a family member of mine, and I can't remember if I reached out or cold called you or what exactly I did, but we got into, I guess, business together using the mailable cards, right? And then took a trip to Salt Lake, and I remember that trip. We just started talking a lot about our stories and where we've come from, and you had just started your curbing business. When did you start the curbing business?
Curbing started 2006, but it was pretty slow going to get going with that. A lot of part-time weekend type work and then full-time, and then economy got slow 2008, 2009, and that's when the cards were good because we could reach out. We were really good about sending thank you cards because of that. That was like the big thing with the card mailing was the automatic thank you cards.
Yeah, and so you're like a year. That's a year after I started M&E. So I mean, we're just fresh jumping into business. Were you working part-time or full-time while you were running curbing, or did you just slowly build the curbing up and that's all you were doing? I don't remember that from when you were first starting.
Yeah, so I was working full-time and doing the curbing on the weekends for quite a bit of time. I did curbing full-time from 2007 to 9, and then I've always kind of had a background of working in underground utilities like gas lines, electric lines, cable lines. And then I did that for a long time till like 2016, 17. I was working with a big oil company here in Berthoud, and I just got tired of the politics and decided to go back full time and just dove head first and tried to make it, and we're making it. So
what was that like to make that leap? Because I talked to a lot of people that are they're there, they're almost there. They're ready, and they can't jump. So what was that moment like? What do you remember just going through and feelings? I always love hearing that.
Yeah. So at the time I had a under 1-year-old baby. So that was probably the hardest part because I wanted to make sure I could still provide for the family. I think the part that made it easy is because I had already done it full time for 3 years or 4 years, whatever it was. I knew that I could do it, but I mean, I left a job that was paying me $140,000 a year to go dive headfirst back into my own business. And so I think a lot of that was, I just went as hard as I could because I had the family on the mind. Yeah. And then kind of sacrificed myself a little bit, but it's paying off now that we did that. But it's hard. It's hard to make that leap. If I had to give any advice to anybody that was
please do
looking
to ask you
to go from a full-time job to running their own company, is you just got to do it because you got to have the time. You can't be held back by your hourly job if you're wanting to invest in a full-time company that you want to run on your own because the time's not there. You have to go full-time with it to put the investment in that you need.
Do you think that's part of your personality style? Because I meet some people, they're very, slow and methodical and, step by step, and they can intentionally carve out 2.5 hours a day or, 10 hours a week, whatever it is, to just work on their side hustle that becomes their business. But do you feel like everybody should do that? Or do you think more, because you and Taylor, I mean, we've been here with Emily, right? And the couples here, like on the couples night, the personality and the leadership language. But do you think that was just you, or you think everybody should kind of go that route?
First starting out, I mean, I think if you're wanting to do something that's off track or on another alley of what you're doing, you got to have the time to invest in it. So whether you plan it or you just kind of roll into it each day, that's my style. Is I just kind of roll into it when it feels right. I'll go open the computer and I'll just start punching away. But I don't have like a set time from 5 to 7. I'm going to be working on this. It's pretty much just, okay, I'm not going to sit and watch TV. I'm going to go work on something instead.
Yeah. Now, did you have entrepreneurship in your family, or what gave you kind of that spark and that bug to start your own thing? And I guess what got you into curbing? What was appealing about that? Like, how do you how do you end up? You're working utilities, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're both Northern Colorado guys, and like, how do you end up on the end of a curbing machine?
That's actually a funny
Running a
story. It's a good
business.
story. So the curbing machine, how that happened, I had no clue what it was. I have a cousin in California that does curbing just like I do. And I was out there visiting I guess it would be my second cousin, his daughter. We're the same age. We just became good friends. So I was out there hanging out in California. I mean, young kid, 20 years old, hanging out in Southern California. That's a fun time. So I think I took a week, and one of his guys didn't show up, and he's like, "Hey, I need your help today. You're coming with me." It wasn't really a choice. It was like, "You're coming. I'm providing you free place to stay and meals while you're here hanging out. Come help me for 4 hours."
You're curbing today, bro.
Yeah.
Welcome to vacation.
Yeah. So when we get there, we get all set up. I'm just kind of watching because I don't know what I'm doing. And then when it comes time for me to work, he's like, "You just got to take the concrete from the wheelbarrow and put it in this machine." I'm like, "Okay." So, and I'm watching the whole process, and it's maybe 15 minutes in, I'm like, I think I can do this. And then I finished up my vacation, came home, and eBay was the thing. Got on eBay, found a used curbing machine for sale on eBay in Grand Junction, and paid $1,600 for it. And my stepdad gave me the money for it and bought it. And my girlfriend at the time, her dad and I drove down and picked up this curbing machine from Grand Junction. This was winter of 2005. So then springtime 2006, I practiced on my parents' house. I only did one house, and then I started selling it. Bought a Dex. It was still when the yellow pages were around. Bought an ad in Dex, under landscape contractors and curb design. That's why the name's Advanced Curb Design, because I built the business when the phone book was relevant. So I wanted to be so I was up front.
Yep.
And
do you remember the Dex sales people? And you were competing for either black and white or full color, and the size of the page, right? Like if you wanted one of those ads, and it was seniority, size of the ad,
yep,
and amount you were going to pay them. And I remember always fighting, well, which company's doing which? And I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years into that, I told the Dex, I don't think phone book's going to be around. It's getting smaller and smaller. Like, oh no, you're wrong. That thing is totally gone. I remember those days. Man. Yeah.
But it's funny because I remember what I paid, because it was really hard for me to pay that ad, and it wasn't that much. It was like $5,000 for the year or something. But I remember it being so much money that it was a struggle to make that payment, because we were new business, not a lot of revenue coming in. That monthly payment was just hard to make, especially in the wintertime when we got in there and there's no revenue, and I still got to make this monthly payment. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to do that again. But now I look at the advertising amount that we spend, and that would be nothing.
Yeah, that would be nothing. That's just flicking a couple bucks.
Because now we got magazine mailers that go up monthly. We've got Google ads that run monthly, and then Facebook stuff. All the money that we're spending on advertising, plus wrapping vehicles and wrapping trailers. If I could go back in time, I would have probably bought a bigger ad.
You think so?
Yep,
you bought the full color.
Yeah, because I didn't. It wasn't until probably 2017, 18 when I first stepped back in that I really understood the power of advertising.
Yeah.
So if nobody knows who you are, nobody's going to buy it. So you got to get out there as much, out there in front of as many people as possible, especially in a home-based luxury service like we offer with the curbing and the lighting.
So in 2006, so you're coming back from vacation, $1,600, drive to Grand Junction, and pick this machine up. You do one job for your parents.
They were out of town. I just did it. I didn't even ask them.
So they came home to some fresh curbing. You're like, Mom, Dad, starting a business.
And that curbing stayed on the ground until they sold that house, and then I think the new owners ripped it up pretty quick because it didn't look good. It wasn't good.
I was going to ask you how that job went. I mean, that's just
it looked like a flower bed, but it wasn't good.
So when you jumped out of your full-time job, you said, 2016, you're making, 6 figures, the utility company, and then you leave. What was that 10-year period looking like from coming back from vacation, starting the curbing business? Were you working in the utility field back then as well, 10 years prior in 2006?
Yes. So I was working, doing underground like gas at that time for a company. I think they're based out of Denver, but they had a yard in Fort Collins. And so I got on with those guys. It was like a Craigslist ad I answered because I was planning on curbing the whole time, but what I would do is I would find a job in the wintertime so I didn't have to spend everything I made over the summer in my seasonal business. I
Yep.
didn't have to burn through that. So I just got on Craigslist to find a job. Well, I found this job for this gas company, and it sucked me in. The pay was good. They would pay a per diem. So I remember at one point, like I was bringing home like $3,200 a week after taxes, and I'm like, this is phenomenal. How can I walk away from this? And
Yeah.
so the money really sucked me in, and I think I kind of maybe, I don't know if maybe the timing worked out perfect, but I kind of maybe let the money run my life for too long. I probably maybe would have got back into it a little sooner had the money not been so good.
You think so? That was
Oh yeah,
that was
and
too big of a draw
just
for you.
having young kids and insurance and all the stuff that you want to have, and that was the cushion. That having a full-time job working for somebody was the cushion. But looking at that now, that's kind of what we want to do for our employees is give them a good place to work to where they don't want to leave. So kind of almost put them in the same position that I was in.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of conversations. So let's kind of jump into that, right? So you're building this business, and I remember the early years of your business. I'd call you up, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? You want to go grab a lunch, grab a coffee? You're like, I'm on the curbing machine. I can hear the curbing machine in the background.
Yep.
And we would just get to this continuing joke of like, when are you going to get off the curbing machine, right? When are you going to trust and find other people to bring in? So talk about that, because I mean, I've gone through that as a business owner.
Yep.
You've gone through that. You're kind of right at this point right now where you're just unbottlenecking yourself from curbing. We have another company that we'll talk about that you've launched where you made it that way. Talk about that and that journey for you and what you've learned from that.
Yeah, I've kind of mentioned it to you before. I kind of think it's like a divorce. It's really hard to do. So I'm still on the curbing machine. We're just not seeing eye to eye. So I'm trying to get myself off of that and let our employees take over. I mean, we hire the people. Let's let them do the work. But it's so I'm just not trusting when it comes to that one thing, just because I've been doing it so long, and I want to protect the quality and the name that we put out there. And it's hard. So that's why we are where we are, because I want to walk that back. I want to get off that. Let the crew go do the thing, and we'll put processes in place that allow that to happen. I mean, there's a reason why McDonald's run by 15-year-olds. So, if they can do that and the whole operation can run, I mean, it's just a curbing machine. So I just got to step back and look at it.
Is that more of a pride or proud of your work thing, or a control thing? In terms of what keeps you sucked into that, is it a little bit of both?
It could be
is it more of a trust?
It's probably actually all of that, all wrapped up in one. Pride, because I do a really good job. So if I let somebody else take that over, the job is just it's not going to be as nice. Whether the customer sees that, it may not happen. I'm going to see it. And that's the issue that I have with it. The control factor, 100%. It takes twice as long for them to do it as I would do it. So then the efficiency goes down. So what I've always looked at, it's a seasonal business. So April to November, I got to get as much curb on the ground from April to November as I can. Because after it snows, we're done until the next spring. So if I take twice as long to do it, or send these guys out and they take twice as long, then we're getting half as much done. So that's half as much revenue.
Yep.
So that's the hard part. I know that they'll gain speed as they learn. I've saw that with I've seen that with the sliding, and they're getting faster and faster, more efficient, and doing a better job as they go. A lot less callbacks, a lot less warranty stuff. So seeing that in fruition, and then now I just got to take that and know that it's going to happen with the curbing. And then the trust is just knowing that the guys are going to go out there and do what they're supposed to do and not be horse playing. We're in people's yards, we're in their backyards. Perception's everything. I want the customer to feel all warm and fuzzy. If I'm not on site, what are they going to be talking about? Are they going to be dropping F-bombs in somebody's backyard while their 3-year-old kids up in the window, all curious because we're doing construction? And, it's just knowing that if I'm not there, they're going to do the right thing.
And talk about, so because we have, we're in paint contracting, paint roof contracting. You're in effectively landscape contracting. So how has been working in that labor pool and those people, and how do you find the key players in an industry or a pool where there's a lot of stereotypical, like you said, like, hey, Tyler, my 4-year-old daughter just learned the F word from your guy out there putting curb down on the ground, or your roofer's on the roof smoking a cigarette, drinking whiskey. Yeah,
right.
Get those calls.
Luckily, I haven't had that. Luckily, I haven't had that. No. The worst stuff we get is like property damage. Hey, you guys scraped my fence and put a big scratch in it. And I didn't know because I didn't see it, but we go back and we just try to make it right. There's nothing we can do. I can either replace the post or I can say, hey, why don't we just knock 5% off this and call it good? Yeah. That's more stuff. But because if I'm on site, they're not doing it, because as soon as I hear it, hey guys, you can't be talking like that. Save that for the yard or whatever. And they're, oh, sorry. They understand, but they just get going on stories and they get all excited about telling their stories and they're like, F this and F that. And I'm like, hey guys, I can hear it from clear over here. I know, like, look up, their windows are up. Or now the big thing too is everybody's got Ring cameras around, right? So whatever you say, they can hear, and those Ring cameras can pick up everything. So we really, and we have meetings and we touch on it every now and again at the yard. Like, hey, just remember, keep your conversations clean. Act like you're talking in front of your mom, in a way.
Love it.
Yep.
I love it. And then you and I were just talking right before we sat down here is finding those key players.
Oh,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Finding the guy, right? Because you just said, this guy just came, this guy went, I'm going to hire somebody. There's always this revolving door, I think, in any business of any kind of team members. And then you've got your long, steady standing. They're just going to be workhorses. They're going to get done what they need to get done. And some of them aren't interested in stepping up, and that's okay, because you don't need everybody to step up and replace you. But you found a guy. And talk about that process of how you found him. How are you developing and molding him, and what's kind of that transition? Because you're what, 2 to 5 years, you're going to be totally off the curbing.
Yeah, hopefully less time than that.
Maybe out of that business.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And then we've got the other business we're going to talk about too. And then I want to talk about a few other things.
Yeah,
Tell me about him and what you're doing with him right now.
Yeah, so he's great. He's a young kid, 20 years old. Actually bought his first house last year. So he's 20 years old, already has a home that he owns, has a mortgage on it. But I mean, he's already ahead of all of his peers, because in this housing market, 40-year-olds are having a hard time buying
a house in 2022. 20-year-old who just bought a house in this market. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so he the nice thing about it is he wants to work all the time, and he has to have a job because he has to pay his bills. He's also got a kid that just turned 1. So he's 20 years old, 1-year-old, has a mortgage, has a wife, and he's had to step into a lot of responsibility quickly. And since that has happened, we've seen a lot of, I guess, drive come out of that. And so he wants to learn. He wants to absorb much. He wants to be a business owner. I mean, he talks about it all the time. So what we've done is approached him and kind of laid out this plan that he could take over the curbing business for us, or actually as his own, not for us, but we would work a way that we would get payment out of it, but it would be his at that point, him and his wife. So, and his wife actually works in our office with my wife, Taylor, learning that side of it while he's out learning the construction side. So that way we're molding them. So, because it's still our name, and our name's going to be attached to it for a long time afterwards even. So we want him to run out and be successful with it from day one. He's gonna have some speed bumps, obviously, just like any business owner. But the goal would be that if he has an issue on site, he already knows how to fix it because he's learned from us. Or if they need to, they get a contract. Oh, we need your insurance. They already know what that is to call their insurance company and have it sent over. So they're just ahead of the game already.
That's cool. Go right ahead.
Yeah. So it's really just about molding him, and he's not the only one. We got other guys that have potential, but really I struggle with just pouring into people if they're not going to show us the pride first and the desire to to want more, I guess, and want to succeed and actually care about the work that they're doing. I have a hard time giving my advice and the things that I've learned, because I mean every mistake is a learning opportunity. So I try to talk with the employees about just mistakes I've already made, and I can see them making the mistake, and I'll try to talk to them. But we probably invest more into the guys that return the favor and invest into us probably a little bit more. So I mean, Holden is not the only one. I mean, I got several others that are wanting to step up, and I think they're really seeing that if we're willing to take the step into them, that it's almost reciprocal. We keep giving more and more to each other. And, and that leads into the training that we're going to get ready to do here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're getting ready in a few weeks we're going to spend the whole day together. We're
With the
going
whole crew.
Bring the team out here. We're going to bring in some food, some coffee, and we're going to talk leadership language with them and just vision casting. Like that's so important in business and life and family. It's like, look at where you are now today, 2023. When did you start thinking about that? Like, when did you start envisioning that lifestyle? And like, did you do that? Or did you just kind of end up here? Because I talked to some entrepreneurs, they haven't spent a lot of time visioning.
I would say for the last 5 years is when I say we a lot because my wife and I are kind of a team. So we anytime we're talking about big life stuff, it's together. It's not just me.
Yeah.
I would say about 5 years ago is when we started making big moves and big vision and plans. We sit down actually every January, my wife and I, we send my kids to my mom's, and we actually will go to like the Armstrong or just a nice fancy place that we can kind of just put it all away and have one-on-one time, almost like you and I are having here.
Mm-hmm.
And every year we pads of paper. I'm going to say she has the pads of paper. I just kind of put a lot of input, but she writes it all down. We touch on 1 year goals, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year. And we always touch on that. And then the following year, we'll go look at what we had last year. That's kind of how we started. Like, what were our goals from last year? And it's actually kind of nice to see there's a lot of it that's actually crossed off. And we don't cross off everything, but there's a lot of it that gets crossed off. And then we look at, okay, do we need to adjust our 5 year? Has anything changed in our life that we need to adjust? Same with the 10 year. But because we're both on the same page, it's almost like I chalk it up to being in a boat, right? If you got two people in a boat and you're going two different directions, you're not going to get very far. You're going to start spinning circles. But if you guys are in the boat and you're like, we need to go to that island, you're going to get there because you're both rowing towards the island, but you got to be able to see the island.
I love that you guys do that.
Yep.
And I've always looked at vision, in that 3 to 5 year window, but it's really cool. Like, hey, what's the short 1 to 2? And then you've got kind of that mid-range 5 and then 10. Mm-hmm. What's a big 10-year goal just that you guys are shooting for?
Yeah,
Whether it's life, business, family, what is that?
I mean, it's pretty high level. So there's only a few things on it, but it kind of gives us a trajectory. So we want to have a house for each of our kids that there'll be rentals now, but so that way when they're 18, 19 and ready to go into college or go into business, whatever they choose to do, they have a spot and it's going to be theirs. So like at some point that'll be their house to inherit. Yeah. Each one will have one. And then the big goal for our business is we want to be in real estate. So kind of the high level vision is like RV storage, mini storage. We want to have, at least 5 complexes probably within 10 years is kind of where we're looking.
That's awesome.
And it's completely different from what we're at now, but it intrigues me. And that's where I want to be. And she sees that the potential. So she wants to be there too, because it's going to give us the freedom to do things in life that, a lot of folks don't get to do till they're in their upper 60s. Yeah.
No, I love that. And then when you guys sit down and do this, because Emily and I do something similar, but when you guys are sitting down, because I'm just thinking about how Emily and I go through this, do you ever get to a point where you're like, hey, I see the vision going this way? And Taylor goes, I see it going a little bit this way, and you circle back around? Or do you kind of come up with that together and then plant those islands out ahead of you?
Yeah, I think, for the most part, just now that we're 5 years into that, we kind of know the direction, so it's easy. But maybe I think the first year we saw a little bit of that, especially with kind of our kids and how we wanted to school them, and and I guess we probably actually still have that going on now, but I kind of maybe won that battle a little bit, but we compromised on it. Taylor really wanted to homeschool the whole time, and I think that eats up so much of her time that she doesn't get to, she's rowing with half an oar in the boat if she's homeschooling, but I want her to be rowing with 2 oars. And so I kind of run that, but we've made some changes actually even since the last time that you and I spoke. So we were going to do res.
That's right.
And one of them did do res all of last year, but now we're going to do Ridgeview. It's Ridgeview Classical. It's not too far from our house. They ended up having just enough spots open for our kids, and it's the curriculum's good. It's kind of keeps them out of the, no offense to anybody, but the public school system, which I don't really want my kids in. And
no, that's okay to say.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool to say.
Yeah. We want better for our kids than we want for ourselves. And we're really trying to set them up for success. And, they don't even realize it now. Maybe they'll realize it when they're 25, that they're like, I'm really glad that my mom and dad did that for me.
Mm-hmm. Hey, just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. If you're a small business owner, one of the things that you need to navigate to be successful is all things online and digital in terms of marketing and your messaging. Imprint Digital, they're the real deal. They are the professionals, and they know this world inside and out. Make sure to visit their website at imprint-digital.com. Hey, if you're a Christian business owner, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. The Foundry is a Christian peer advisory group where we get together on a monthly basis to discuss everything that's important in our life, our business, our families, and our faith. I'm a member, and I love being a part of this group. You've got to check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. When you go to their website, make sure you check out their Refresh event, which is happening January 11th through the 13th, 2024, up in Estes Park. That can be found at thefoundryadvisory.com/refresh. Hey, if you're a business owner and you need to do some renovation in your space or possibly build a building from the ground up, you have to connect with one of our sponsors, Mendel Construction. Mendel Construction is a commercial construction company that's been around since 1997, serving all of Colorado. They can do a small tenant finish all the way up to ground-up construction of a new building for your business. Check them out at mendelandcompany.com. That's MENDEL and company.com. A big shout out and thank you to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D was actually founded by my wife Emily and I back in 2005. And for the last 2 decades, we've been here in northern Colorado of one of the leaders in residential and commercial repainting, as well as most recently installing residential roofs. So if you need to paint, re-roof, you got hit by a hailstorm, we can take care of whatever your home needs from top to bottom. You can find us on the web at mandepainting.com. If your life or business are cluttered up with junk right now, then you've got to reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts Hauling. Hulk Addicts can come out to your home or business to do anything from removing junk to appliances. Maybe you're demoing or doing construction on a property and you need it cleared out. Maybe you need a big dumpster dropped off that they can roll off later. Make sure to check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. They are serving all of northern Colorado as well as up and down the Front Range. We're getting old when we say stuff like that, right? I was telling somebody the other day, I go, Riley, you'll appreciate this one day. And he's like, Dad, you're ancient.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
I love it.
And then, a little bit of news. When's this going to air?
Let's see. We're sitting here. See, now you're time stamping it. So we're sitting here, Saturday morning, beginning of August.
Generalized time? Are we looking at 2 months out?
November. Yeah,
okay.
Probably late October, November.
So we can make an announcement. So I got another kid on the way.
Oh, way.
Yeah.
No way.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Just found out. Yep.
Awesome. So how far in?
11 weeks, I think, is where she's at now. We had an appointment last week for.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah, it wasn't planned by any means, but we're still gonna be good parents. So.
Yeah, you will. No, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. See, now you're outnumbered though.
Yeah, no, yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I Taylor's like, are you frustrated at all? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually a little frustrated with it because we were completely out of this season of life, and now we're back in this season of life. And I was like, we were perfect. We were in the traveling, one kid for each adult. The kids could carry their own suitcases, and now we're back into this to where we're for 3 years when we got all of our arms are full, and we got 2 kids that we got to make sure they're not running off as well. I said it's going to make traveling really difficult, and we were into that. So are we going to have to walk that back, or are we just going to deal with it? And
so now you just have to have 4, balances it out, and then get a minivan.
No, I'm not doing that.
It's total American dream, man.
No,
You can't get them all in the truck out there, though. Can you?
I think I probably could
Squeeze them
in.
Minivans are efficient, though.
I see the benefit in a minivan. I can never convince my wife to drive a minivan.
So with that, because you guys have an interesting dynamic, because Emily and I worked together when we launched M&E back in 05 through 07, right until Riley was born. And then she's been stay-at-home mom that entire time. She started helping a little bit with no-code jiu-jitsu when that launched. And then actually this summer, just due to a couple circumstances, she's back in the business, a little bit in the gym, and then she's helping me with everything that we're doing here. But how's that dynamic of working with your spouse in business, and what kind of pointers, insights would you have for spouses that either are working together or maybe thinking about working together? Like, how's that been for you guys?
It's been pretty good. I would say a difficulty is I can turn work on and off really easy. So when I come home at 5:30, like I'm all about being family, but she's still mad at me because I said, hey, I need you to send that to him. I asked you yesterday and you didn't do it. I need you to do it. She still holds on to that and is grumpy that I kind of got on her a little bit, but it's the way I would treat any employee. But she can't turn it off. So she always thinks I'm treating her like an employee. So that's probably the biggest difficulty, I would say, is I kind of have to be a little softer, I think, because I also have to go home to her. I don't have to go home to any of the other people. But I think we've been in it long enough now that she knows that I like to only ask one time when it comes to work stuff that it be done. So when stuff gets lost, it frustrates me because that's part of one of my issues is I need to be able to trust people that things are going to get done in order for me to walk away. So if even my own wife is not doing something right when I ask, or she waits till later, but at the same time, she's got to do it on her own schedule because, she's got other stuff that I may not know about. But if I can't trust that the stuff's getting done, then how am I to walk away when my own wife isn't even doing it?
And are you like an overloader? Because I think you and I are fairly similar in our styles of how we do things, but I'm like, do it well, do it right, do it as soon as it's supposed to be done. And if not, things aren't okay.
Yeah.
And I remember a day I came down on Emily with that. And I said something to the degree of like, hey, you're just, this is all you're supposed to be doing in the business. And then I said something like, what do you do all day? Like a stay-at-home mom. Did you ever pull?
Oh yeah, definitely. She goes, like, what do you even do all day?
She goes, hey, my sister's back in town. We're gonna leave Friday. I'll see you Sunday night. And she's like, you're about to find out what I do all day. And then she would text me. She's like, make sure the laundry's done. Make sure this is done. Make sure this is clean. Make sure you get dinner ready. And I remember she came home. I was like, yes, I'm sorry I even said that.
Yeah, no, it's for sure that way because I would say that's twofold because I don't know that she fully understands what I do all day either. Like the amount of work that went into what we did from 7 a.m. till I got home at 5:30. Do you truly understand how much work went into what we did today? We did 800 feet of curbing at 4 different houses. Yeah. All the logistics for that, the travel, making sure everybody's full of water, full of food, happy, like it's mentally taxing.
Yeah.
But
what do you guys do to unplug? So I know for Emily and I, like, we're working together. Now we're back again working together. And this is with maybe a 15-year spread in the business from when we were working together. And it's different now because we're so much further along in our relationship. But how do you guys unplug? Because we have a hard time doing that. And then sometimes I feel like when we do, all of a sudden we're talking about business. I don't know if you find yourself doing that, but what would you tell entrepreneurial couples in terms of that unplug, recharge, rejuvenate, and how to do that? How do you guys do that? Or not?
No, yeah. We do a lot of camping and stuff with our kids, and that's kind of a good way to get out there because then they need so much of your time that you're not looking at that email, or you're not trying to send that quote out. I mean, we all do it though, because, you know, I'm a first believer that the first responder is going to have a better chance of getting the business. So anytime somebody asks for a quote, I try to send that out. But yeah, unplugging. So camping with kids is good. Honestly, the best thing to do is go somewhere with no cell phone service. Like, we'll go up to Red Feather and just do some dry camping off in the national forest there. There's no cell phone service. So, I mean, if there's no service, work is less likely to come up. That's the best way. We did take a trip back in February with the, I guess, whole mindset that we were going to see how the business would do without us. I mean, we would check in on it and make sure things were coordinated. We did that for the sole reason I heard a quote that really resonated with me, and it was, if you can leave for 30 days and there's more money in the account than when you left, you own a business. If there's not, you own a job.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I need to try that. I have to try it. And we did. We didn't go for 30. We went for 20 days, but it worked. You know, with our employees worked the whole time. Sure, there were things that happened, and we had to, you know, make some phone calls and get a couple small problems or small issues rectified, or we forgot this part, but we need to do some coordination. But at the end of the day, it worked. We left, we came back, we made revenue the whole time. The employees got paid the whole time, and we weren't even close. I mean, we were 8-hour plane ride away.
Where'd you guys go?
We went to Oahu.
Okay, you did. Yeah,
I got friends that it was cheap too. That's how we made it work. We have friends that have a Airbnb, out there, and we rented it from them. It was like, I don't know, $4,500 for the 20 days or something like that. We bought the flights on points, so it was cheap for us to leave for that long. You know, you can't do a week in Mexico for that, so it was nice to be able to go that far. Plus, having friends there was kind of nice that we were able to hang out with.
That's awesome. Emily and I just went to Hawaii for the first time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's not bad for 20 days, because we were there for 7, and you could do like 3 weeks in Mexico for the same as 1 week in Hawaii, because they're crazy now after COVID.
It's
what year was that again? Did you say 18 that you did that?
No, this was this past year.
Oh, just past year,
February.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because coming out of COVID, they just, all of their numbers for everything over there was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the food, what I noticed most was the food was really expensive. We stayed on the North Shore, so it's pretty laid back. It's kind of like a surfer community. If it kind of reminds me of Newport Beach a little bit. Okay. Everything, there's only about 3 or 4 big restaurants within a 15-minute drive from where we were. Everything else was food trucks. So it's everybody just, they want to walk up and grab their handheld burritos and then get back to the beach as quick as possible. And that's what it was like. I got pretty tired of eating food trucks on that trip, but it was nice. It was relaxing, because it was, I think it was what we needed. We were in our own space in this house. The kids were able to do school the whole time, because they were Emerson was homeschooled. Georgia, we just pulled her out of res for the month or whatever, and then got some assignments from the teachers that she could work on, and made it work. It was beautiful. And now, but it's like, I want to do that again. Do we need to do that test again? And but maybe do it at a larger scale of having multiple crews going instead of one. Like, how can we set the processes up to even do better this time? But then let that lead into why does it just have to be for that 20 days? Why can't it be for the whole year?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what, again, circling back to the training, that's what we want to invest into our people. Not so much just so that they're really good while they're here, so they're really good even after they leave us or move on. Whatever their next venture is, we want them to take those skills with them. We just want to be able to offer them as many skills and teachings while they're with us as possible, because they're going to be really good while they're here, but even, maybe even better when they're down the road, and maybe they'll look back and be like, that was really worth it. We appreciate that. And then maybe they'll be like, hey, I worked for these people this one time, and they invested a lot into me. You should go work here. Maybe they have a nephew or something that's looking for a job at some point.
Yeah. I see so many businesses, they get it wrong. So they go, well, I don't want to tell them too much. I don't want to give away, too many of my secrets or develop them too much, because then they're going to leave and maybe they're going to be a competitor. And I heard a quote where it's like, what do you want to have them not get better and not get more educated and not get more fulfilled with their life while they're here? Like how good of a leader is that? Like, you're not going to pour anything into them because you think they're going to take that from you. So that scarcity mindset, I see that in businesses, man, and they're just filled with problems, filled with issues. So,
well, I mean,
I
go ahead.
Struggled with that. Do you struggle with that though? Because I mean, there's some times when I'm even sitting here still like 20 years into this, and it's like, man, we're investing a lot in this person, and they might leave. Like, that's just the reality of it. So I still get that voice too. I don't know if you do.
Yeah,
as an
I mean,
entrepreneur, but
yeah, for sure, because it's like it's an investment that could just walk out the door at any time. Like they're not stuck to you by any means. You could spend $5,000 on a training for them, and they could leave the next day. But it's just risk. But you just hope that the reward is worth the risk, I guess.
I love it. We can't leave here before we talk about your new business.
Oh yeah,
and your new venture, because you guys just did some work for us.
Yeah, we set this one up properly though, so I'm not hands on in the construction of it, just hands on in the sales and the behind the scenes business of it, which is nice. And so what we're doing is like permanent holiday lighting. So once you get it up on your house, it never comes down, and you run it all from an app on your phone, and nobody has to fall off a roof. So
how did you get into that? Because I remember you and I we're both busy. We were both, and I remember for a number of years, kind of just in our lane, just kind of passing each other a couple times a year. But how did you get connected and into this business?
Happy accident, actually. Right place, right time. I had the seamless gutter business, which we worked with you guys on that. At the time, I was in Mexico, sitting in a hot tub in Cabo with a bunch of friends. I'm part of like a CrossFit community, and if anybody knows those, they like to joke that they're cults because they're really tight.
They are, yeah,
yep. Totally. And so there was 20 or 30 of us that went to Cabo together, and we were all sitting in the hot tub, and one guy looks at me, he's like, "Hey, I saw this permanent lighting. You should offer this. You have all the tools for it. You should do it." And I'm like, I'll look into it. I looked into it. I spent 8 months researching a bunch of different top players in the industry and landed on the one that we went with. And here we are 2.5 years later, and we're doing more revenue in that than curbing. And I've been doing curbing for 17 years.
Yeah. I love it.
But it's also, I think, partially because we set it up the right way. I've given myself the time to go do all the sales. So I'm a really good salesman when I'm talking to customers, so I can sell the jobs a lot easier than if I'm sending just one of our employees out there. Because at that point, they're just getting measurements. They're giving the customer a little bit of information, but they're not giving the customer the warm, fuzzy feeling about the company and how
the whole experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so because I sell all of those, our sales are really high, and then I train the crew properly to where they do all the installs. I don't get on the roof unless we're behind. Like in the busy season, I might get on and go help with a house or two. But I really purposely at the beginning knew that we were going to go slower and we were going to be less efficient up front. But I wanted them to do it so I didn't have to do it. And it worked. And here we are 2.5 years later. We're doing, if I send a 3-man crew on a house, they can knock it out in a day or two. And some of the bigger houses might take a little bit longer, but it's working. I took a pretty big risk last week, and usually if we're going out of town, I go on those, but I didn't have the time to go out of town, so I sent our 3-man crew up to Gillette, Wyoming, and they installed a house, and I just let them know before you leave, double check everything, because if we have to go back up for a warranty issue, it's going to knock all the profit out. So you have to double check everything. And they did it, and there was a small issue, but we were able to rectify it from the phone with the homeowner, and he's happy, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it worked. So we're going to try it again next week with Albuquerque. That's a little further, so I'm going to go on that one, but I'm going to try to still let them do most of the work. I'm just going to, be there to oversee some of the quality stuff.
You've got to be proud of yourself for that.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you for that.
No,
I know the
it's
conversations
good.
we've had.
I'm proud now because I look back on it and how I'm able to run a business like a business owner should versus being married to the concrete machine per se, it's nice. It makes my days a lot more relaxing. Even though we're still getting a lot done, my days are relaxing. The stress level's down. It's like it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. The 20% of the moves that I'm making on this business are getting us 80% of the way. But right now in the concrete, 80% of my moves are only getting us 20% of the way. So I have to flip that.
It'll be interesting to see when you're completely out of curbing, where lighting goes.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to get, I think it's going to just keep growing. It's still such a new industry that I don't even think it's taken off yet.
Well, and I told somebody, oh yeah, we did the permanent lights. What are you talking about?
Yep.
Like, what do you mean? And you can do them all. They can be on every day, and there's an app. I go, yeah, you gotta check it out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I would say probably still to this day, less than 1% of houses have it, even with all the 5 major suppliers. There's even some like Philips, I think, is making a system that you can go buy at Home Depot. Obviously, it's like all like tape and stick on, but they're calling it a permanent system. Ours is a little bit better and higher quality than that. Yeah. But even with those guys coming in, I think it's 5 years from now when it really starts to catch on. And right now, one house in every neighborhood might have it on average. There's some neighborhoods that, and we've done 4 or 5 houses in the neighborhood, or like 2 on the street. But I would say an average one house in every neighborhood has it. Wait till that's like 7 or 8. Then everybody's going to be like, well, if we don't get this, we're going to get left behind. Or, maybe the whole cul-de-sacs will start getting it because, sometimes cul-de-sacs, they're close-knit communities. They do like block parties and stuff. Yeah. Then, we can come in and do the whole cul-de-sac for somebody or something. So I really think that there's still a lot of potential. Plus, in addition to that, like municipalities are really starting to get on board. So we've done a bunch for Fort Collins. We're getting ready to do a couple big buildings for Timnath, their police station, plus their town hall. We got that one coming up. So municipalities are going to be big because they're really big buildings. And, as soon as the municipalities start doing it, then it almost gives the okay for the residents to do it because they're not going to get in trouble if the town's doing it, right? So I think that's a lot of the hesitation for some folks is that, well, my HOA is not going to approve. Well, the HOA, they can't dictate it because there's a safety lighting feature in it, which is kind of a nice thing. So they can't tell you no because you can use it for safety. The only thing they can dictate is the color. Well, if we're matching it, then the color's already approved. Interesting. See, I didn't know that. I thought you'd have to get just like with paint or other stuff. You don't have to get HOA. No. So from my understanding, there's a little bit of there was an HOA battle with one of the manufacturers and the HOA itself, and it ended up going into litigation, and they lost because of the safety light feature. You can't deny somebody a safety aspect as an HOA. It's
good to know.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know.
Yep. So I bet they can dictate like the color. So like you can't put black lighting trim up on a white house because that's going to stand out. You gotta make sure it matches.
Okay.
Yep.
Really cool. So what's the big vision with all this?
As far as
and you've got like gutters and fencing. We didn't even talk about that, right? So in this journey of curbing now to lighting, there was gutters. You still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's sold.
You sold a gutter.
Sold
company,
the gutter because
right?
I saw
we
so
just
much.
Skipped over one of those companies.
I sold that gutter business because I saw the potential in the lighting, even though it was still pretty early on. I just knew that I needed to invest more time into that. So I offloaded that, and from what I know, that company is still doing pretty good. I think they're still working with you guys, and the foreman that worked for us is the one that bought it, so it's still even kind of the same people. And it was just perfect because it freed me up to now take that time, which is limited, and invest into this lighting, and it's paying off, and it's even freeing up more time. And with the lighting, the nice thing about it is, so the gutters it was a great business, but it was dictated by hail. So there wasn't really a season, right? It was like, okay, now it's go time. And this might be go time for a year and a half, and now it's cooled off, and who knows when the next hailstorm is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So it did what I needed it to do for the 3 years that I had it. The lighting is busy all the time, but it's extremely busy in the winter because everybody wants this lighting for Christmas. Like
Yeah.
it's Christmas, holiday lights. It kind of goes hand in hand. The concrete business is opposite of that. So we
Yep.
have now 2 busy seasons that are opposite each other. It's allowed us to keep our employees all year. So,
Which is awesome.
which is great because now we have this pool to pull from of people that have better qualities, better skills, just better people in general to represent our business because we're able to offer them full-time employment. It's not just, somebody we found on Craigslist or something. So that's led us into really caring about the people that we get and not so much just bodies. When before we were kind of stuck and we just needed people, so we would just get whoever came. But stepping back and taking the time to really invest the upfront time before we hire somebody, we were able to bring on a lot better employees that want to stay. And we see that now. I mean, we just talked about it. We're starting to see some pride and some care come out of them, and I think I'm excited to see where the next year goes. As we even, because some are going to leave, some are going to come, but as we keep working this practice of hiring a good person versus just a body, a year from now, it's even going to be better.
Yeah. So then, what advice you've been close to 2 decades in business? Like we're about 2 decades in, right? In our 40s, kids are making fun of us. We're getting old. Mm-hmm. What like 2-3 big pieces of advice would you have for a new entrepreneur that's just getting started? They're struggling. Maybe they're the bottleneck. They're having a hard time. They're thinking of throwing in the towel. What would you tell them? Because I know we've both had moments like that where we were ready to call it quits.
Sure. It's easy for me to say now just because of where we're at. Because looking back on it, I probably never would have took the advice, but I would still want to offer it. And that is, price yourself higher than everybody else would be kind of my goal. Not because you're trying to rip anybody off, but it allows you more money for advertising. It allows you more money for warranties. So you have the money in your budget to go back and fix something for somebody, because not every job is going to go right. Yeah. So if you need to go back and fix something, you got to have the integrity to be able to go. You're not just going to ignore the person because now you don't have any money to fix it because you were bottom of the barrel pricing. We actually just had this. It was the first time ever. We poured a concrete job, real nice, heavy stamp job, and the guy didn't like the color. And it was a little bit of our fault, a little bit of his, because we were trying to match a patio. The patio wasn't sealed yet. So we did the best that we could. Our process a little bit different than a flat work process. It absorbed more of the color, but he didn't like it. Anyway, we went and had a meeting with him and decided the best thing was to rip it all up and re-pour it. And that's what we did. And now he's super happy, so, but we had the money in the job. Yeah, we're not making as much. We're still making money, but we're not making as much. But we had it in there that we were able to go do it without losing it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that would be the first thing, is just make sure you're priced high enough. And, maybe don't be the highest price, like I said, but be priced high enough to where you can fix your mistakes, and also pay for some advertising, because advertising is super important. Like we talked about earlier, I wish I knew more about advertising way early on. And the second is to, you got to have some boundaries for work, life, but in your first, I guess, couple of years, you got to make sure that your work boundary is a lot greater than your life boundary, because you got to get the thing off the ground. Would be you got to put the work in. Yeah.
Did you have that conversation with Taylor and this is pre?
This was pre. So I started advanced curb design before I was married to Taylor. So I was just a single guy. So whatever time I put into it wasn't affecting anybody. So I kind of got that off the ground a little bit before that. But then when we really got busy, and because all the things that I was learning or that we were bringing in was working, and we were getting busy, and then it got to the point I couldn't do it all by myself. And I actually went in and I said, I need you to do this. I can't do it all anymore. And she saw like I think she saw the frustration over my face and the worrisome over my face. And I was just kind of at the end, and it was either I got to give up or you got to help, because I can't do it all. And because I was doing the scheduling, I was doing all the estimates, I was doing all the invoicing, I was doing everything for it. And now I do everything in the field. She does everything behind the scenes, and it's working out great because it's just allowed us a lot more flexibility. Plus, now we're even able to get more done.
Love it.
Yep.
Man, I've really enjoyed having you on the show. This has been a long time coming that we've been needing to sit down.
Yep.
We wrap up all of our episodes the same way. So when you came into the building, we've got our big color wall outside. You grabbed a card with your favorite color.
Yep.
And everybody that comes in here gets to close by reading the one sentence statement message that you want to leave with the world when you leave the world. So grab that card and tell us what you wrote.
Sure. A little bit of context behind it, and I'm glad that we actually just kind of touched on this a little bit. Do I have time for a little bit of context?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, my wife and I were watching the American Country Music Awards not that long ago. I think it was like 3 months ago or whatever. And there's an artist that we really like, and she actually said something in her awarding speech that resonated with me. It was kind of geared towards like little girls and that want to have, I guess, big dreams. And but I kind of took it and I'm like, well, that could really work for anybody. So I kind of stole her quote, but I think it's good for everybody to hear. And it's if you're going to be a dreamer, you better be a doer.
Tylar Fry. Love it, man. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud. Are you ready to make massive breakthroughs in your leadership, and do you want to do so in a really unique way? You should consider coming to Spain with me. April 27th to May 4th of 2024, I am hosting the Ultimate Immersion Experience in Spain. I'm taking a very small group of business owners and business leaders over to Spain for the fun, sun, food, culture, and cuisine of the country. But more importantly, we are going to be putting together some very intentionally crafted adventures, challenges, and experiences to massively push you out of your comfort zone and learn about your own leadership in a very unique way. Go to mattshoup.com, click on the Travel to Spain with Matt button, and check out the Ultimate Immersion Experience.